David, you were here with us on today's show. Really wanted to have you on for several reasons. Obviously, you're covering the Commanders over at Commanders Game Day for Sports Illustrated. You've been to practices. You've seen the makings of this new offense with Jaden Daniels, and I just want to see from your perspective, because it's so new this year. It's such an odd matchup for the Bucs because it's a completely new system for Washington. Obviously, rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels. How would you describe what this offense may look like? Obviously on Sunday, but like kind of for the future of the Commanders.
Yeah, it's gonna be very fast, right? High tempo, fast tempo. You're gonna get no huddle out of it, and you're also gonna get a lot of quick passes out of it. But you're also gonna get a lot of deep shots as well. So it's gonna be the type of offense that really kind of tries to lure you in and then take that deep shot, right? Lure you back in, take that deep shot. But where a lot of people have this kind of notion of Cliff Kingsbury as the air raid guy, and he certainly does come from an air raid background, right? He'll tell you that as well himself. But his offense is not what he would call an air raid offense here in the NFL. And he himself, similar to Dan Quinn, who kind of said when he got here, he's not trying to copy paste what he did in Atlanta here in Washington. He understands he's got to grow, adapt, and change, and he's certainly done that. Cliff Kingsbury's kind of taking the same approach, and that's actually one of the things Dan Quinn told me, that when he was talking to Cliff about coming here to be the OC, it was actually absolutely imperative that Cliff Kingsbury was on the same page. This wasn't your second chance to do what you do and do it better. It was your second chance to learn, adapt, grow, and be better, right? And there's certainly a significant difference there. So, you can turn on the Arizona Cardinals tape, and you're certainly going to get kind of a flavor for Cliff's personality as a play caller and as, how aggressive he wants to be, which is very, but it's not going to be a carbon copy. You couldn't sit there and chart all the plays and say, okay, I've got his playbook, right? That's not going to happen, because you also have Brian Johnson coming over as the pass game coordinator from Philadelphia. You've got Anthony Lynn, who's got head coaching experience, coming over as the run game coordinator and the running backs coach from San Francisco, most lately his latest stop, but he's got extensive background, and those guys are also injecting their flavor into the playbook. And then of course you got Jaden Daniels and what he's comfortable with, what he likes to do the most. And I think what's really important, and something I think is going to have an impact on not just this game but the entire season for Washington, is Jaden has the autonomy. He's got the ability to check at the line, to check out of plays, check into plays, read the defense as best he can pre-snap, and make a decision as the quarterback on the field. And, I don't know that a lot of rookie quarterbacks get that kind of leverage from their offensive coordinators and head coach, but certainly Jaden's getting some of that here in Washington. So all of those things combined, it's going to be really interesting because Todd Bowles, like we love Todd Bowles and how aggressive he tries to be, but he's also got to be very smart with how aggressive he tries to be, because, you get too aggressive, and if Jaden kind of sniffs you out there in that moment, it could certainly burn the Bucs. But, it's going to be a fun duel to watch take place on Sunday.
It's going to be a fun duel. And you mentioned like all the moving parts on offense, and not just the offensive coaching staff with Cliff Kingsbury, Brian Johnson, Anthony Lynn. And that's not even to mention all the defensive parts with Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louvu, Jeremy Chin. With everything kind of revamping in Washington, what's the vibe kind of been like throughout the offseason as the team kind of gets settled in together?
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, it's basically a whole new team, right? This is my third year on ground every day with the Washington Commanders. And, from the last 2 years to this season, completely new franchise. Like, the logos are the same and all that stuff. And, the name conversation, all that stuff. But it really is a whole new vibe. And like going through training camp was different. And even just walking into the building, even just walking in the press box, honestly, I still wouldn't, I wouldn't put the, what is it, Northwest Stadium now is what it's called. I wouldn't match it up to like Ray J's, but it does certainly have a better feel to it. And like Magic Johnson even got involved to make sure that the food experience is better. And you did across the board. It's fan food experience, VIP food experience, press food experience. So like they're really kind of getting into the nuts and bolts of everything. And that's bleeding into the locker room and the staff. And, you look at Adam Peters and coming in as a GM, and the freedom he had to have an owner that's going to basically say, okay, if you want a guy on your staff and you feel like it makes sense, we'll pay him. You know what I mean? I'll cut the check. You go get the guy you need, and we're going to make this happen. Same thing for the coaching staff. I mean, I've never even heard of a coaching staff chief of staff, but they've got one here in Washington now. It's really cool.
Wow.
Unique situation. But like, if the leadership here thinks it makes sense and it's going to help them be better, then Josh Harris is all about it. And I think what's really cool is, Josh Harris grew up as a fan of the franchise, and like he went to games in RK Stadium and remembers the Hogs and all that stuff. So like he's the owner, he's a businessman, but he's also a fan, and he wants to see this team be successful again. And I know usually like when we talk about vibes around a team, we don't go to the ownership, but that's kind of how sweeping it's really been. And a small thing that, on the surface kind of seems small, right? But the locker room is mixed up. Like you got receivers next to DBs and tight ends next to D tackles and quarterbacks
Oh,
next to
wow.
second string safeties. Like it kind
Yeah.
of seems like when you hear about it, you're like, okay, cool. But like when you actually go in the locker room, it's really interesting to see. And then you see like Bobby Wagner chopping it up with Jaden Daniels, where like
Right.
typically in the locker room, Bobby Wagner would be chopping it up with Frankie Louvu and Jaden be chopping it up with Marcus Mariota. But because they've got this dynamic now, it really is just kind of like a one team, one fight atmosphere.